Hola, buenas tardes. Feliz Día de Acción de Gracias. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I hope you're having a good morning and enjoying your day, and also being cautious about where you go. As you know, we have been advised to stay home as best we can. I am right next door to my daughter. Um, but I'm staying in my house and they're gonna get together. But I am gonna play it safe and have my dish here and do some FaceTime with them. So hopefully we'll still enjoy some time together as we talk on the internet, because I just figure it's safer this way um, for me, because I'm older, and even though it's dangerous for anybody, they're young, and so if they should get it, they have a better probability of surviving this terrible virus. And older people like me, not so much. So anyway, I thought I would share a story. I'm hoping this is a good time, kind of between lunch, Thanksgiving lunch at noon, and Thanksgiving dinner later in the afternoon. If not, it'll be recorded and you can watch it later. Um, so I just want to share something really quick before I get started with the legend of the Indian paintbrush. I'm going to do it in English and then I'm going to do it in Spanish following. So it's going to take a little bit. But before I do, I wanted to show you this old paper. It's an old recipe that I had written down. You're not gonna believe this. This note on how to make this apple pie with the crust. See how yellow the paper are. Qué tan viejo está la receta. Es que estos papeles tienen más de 35 años, como 37. These notes are like 37 years old. This apple pie I made from apples that fell off a tree when we lived in Illinois, when I only had Angie as my only daughter. We didn't have work. We I was pregnant with my second baby, and Santos had gotten a back injury, so he wasn't working. His compensation got stopped because he was doing a settlement for his injury. So we didn't have a lot to eat. So when I would go to church with some cousins, Manuel and Linda Rodriguez, they had an apple tree. So I grabbed some really tart apples, and I thought, I'm going to try this recipe that I don't know if Linda gave it to me or who did, but I tried the recipe and I was a little bit nervous because I'd never done it, but I did it anyway and it came out so good that today I've done it maybe twice or two times before. Today I did it. I did this recipe in memory of Santos because he really loved it and he loves all the sweet stuff. And I also was brave enough to do my first homemade pumpkin pie for my grandson Tito that loves pumpkin pie. I made some jellos, some deviled eggs, and and then I got the turkey in the oven. So I'm a little bit tired, but I've been enjoying my morning, keeping busy. So I thought I would share that with you before I started my story. Then I'm gonna try my brother Jaime's pan de maíz con jalapeño y elote y crema. So this is a really cool recipe. I'll put it on the internet later. But for right now, let me get started because I want to do English and Spanish for those of you that are gonna listen to this story. I hope you will get to join me live. If not, later on when you have time, you'll sit and enjoy this really nice story, The Legend of the Indian Paintbrush by Tommy de Paola. Retold and illustrated by Tommy de Paola. So the Indian paintbrush is a flower that grows in Texas, but mainly in Wyoming, I believe. I think I read it was in Wyoming. But anyway, it's a really nice story that teaches us some wise lessons from the Native Americans. Okay, So here's the first illustration of the little Native American boy. Many years ago, when the people traveled the plains, they lived in a circle of teepees. There was a boy who was smaller than the rest of the children in the tribe. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't keep up with the other boys. He was always he couldn't keep up with the other boys who were always running, riding, shooting their bows, and wrestling to prove their strength. Sometimes his mother and father worried for him. So he was a little bit different, not as big as the other warriors, young warriors. But the boy who was called Little Gopher, here he is. The boy who was called Little Gopher was not without a gift of his own. From an early age, he had many toy warriors from scraps of leather and pieces of wood. He loved to decorate smooth stones with the red juices from berries he found in the hills. The wise shaman of the tribe understood that Little Gopher had a gift that was special. Do not struggle, Little Gopher. Your your path will not be the same as the others. They will grow up to be warriors. Your place among the people will be remembered for a different reason. So the shaman, the wise man, told him he had a different gift, a special gift. So he liked to paint with berries. So the Native Americans did not have paints that you buy. Let me see. Oh, they're right here. They did not have paints that you buy at the store. They had to get their paints with from the berries out in the wilderness. And so he would take and mash them like in this little medicine masher, like a molcajete. And he would mash it, and then he would take paintbrushes, not brushes like the ones I have here that pay not not the ones that you buy at the store, like these that I got at the store. He would get hairs from the different animals, soft ones from the maybe a rabbit, and maybe the more coarse ones from the horse's tail, and he would paint. He would take his leather, and he would take his paint brush, and he would paint. See, with the berry leaves a stain, and so you could, now I'm going to mash the blueberry so you can see that you could also paint the purple from the blueberry and red from the red berry. So this is how they got their colors, from the berries, not like we get them today at the stores. Okay, so this bowl that I have right here, this is painted with berries. This is from Mexico. Remember I told you that the Mexican indigenous people did very similar cultural things than the Native American people? These two things, even this cross, I got this cross from my friends from Puebla. It was gifted to me in Cancun when we went to a wedding. And this was a gift from my friend when I visited her in Puebla. And so these bowls are painted with berries from the wilderness. People that know this technique still do it. So I treasure these because they are unique and they are special because they are hand painted with berries like they used to a long time ago when there was no paints to be bought. And in a few years, when the little gopher was older, he went to the hills alone to think about becoming a man, for this was the custom of the tribe. And it was there that a dream vision came to him. The sky filled with clouds, and out of them came a young Indian maiden, a single woman that was not married, and an old grandfather. She carried a rolled up animal skin, and he carried a brush made of fine animal hairs and pots of paint. So he would go to the hill to get inspired, and he would see these visions like a dream, but a vision. Kind of like when you're dreaming while you are awake. The grandfather spoke, "My son, these are the tools by which you shall become great among your people. You will paint pictures of the deeds of the warriors and the vision of the shaman, and the people shall see them and remember them forever." So the shaman is telling him what his gift will be and how that gift will be remembered. The unmarried maiden rolled up pure white buckskin and placed it on the ground. "Find a buckskin as white as this," she told him. "Keep it, and one day you will paint a picture that is as pure as the colors in the evening sky." So see this skin around the shaman? They gave him that because that's where he would paint this amazing picture that will be remembered forever. Here's the other illustration. It's beautiful color. Tommy De Paola did a beautiful job. And as he finished speaking, the clouds cleared and a sunset of great beauty filled the sky. Little Gopher looked at the white buckskin, and on it he saw colors as bright and beautiful as those made by the setting sun. So see the buckskin that the maiden had? So he was envisioning all those beautiful colors. Have you ever seen those beautiful colors in the sunset? We have beautiful sunsets all over Colorado, Texas, everywhere. They are beautiful. Then the sun slowly sank behind the hills. The sky grew dark and the dream vision was over. Little Gopher returned to the circle of the people. So then the sun was gone, the colors of the sunset disappeared, so he went back to the village. The next day he began to make soft brushes from the hairs of different animals, the stiff brushes from the hairs of horses' tails. He gathered berries and flowers and rocks of different colors and crushed them to make his paints. Now in these bowls, like it shows right here, in these bowls, he would crush rock. Like if you were to crush some terracotta or barro, if you crush that rock, it gives you a reddish color. So the rocks also gave color. I was gonna bring a little piece of terracotta, but I didn't. But if you do have a little bit of barro, you can see how it stains, like brick color. So he would get colors from the rocks also. Um, he collected the skins of animals which the warriors brought home from their hunts. He stretched the skin on wooden frames and pulled them until they were tight. And he began to paint pictures of great hunts. So he began to paint. This was his canvas, the skin of the animals he stretched out that the warriors would bring after they hunted them down. Also of great deeds, of great dream visions, so that the people would always remember. So he would record the happenings of the village, the deeds that the natives did, of being great hunters or sharing or bringing food, planting, riding horses, and then visions, like maybe something that meant a sign of how things were going to turn out for a season, if they were going to have a good season or a difficult season. But even as he painted, little Gopher sometimes longed to be put aside his brushes and ride out with the warriors. But always remembered his dream vision, and he did not go with them. So even though he knew he had a different goal, a different gift, he kind of wanted to go with the warriors. But he knew his vision had told them that his gift was directed to do something else. So he would stay. That would be good listening, good discipline. For many months ago, he had found his pure white buckskin, and it remained empty because he could not find the colors of the sunset. He used the bright flowers, the reddest berries, and the deepest purples from the rocks, and still his paintings never satisfied him. They looked dull and dark. So he tried his best to paint just like he wanted to capture the beautiful colors like the sunset, but he did not like what he painted. But it's just like anything. When we try, we're not the best at it. We have to work and practice and try again. He began to go to the top of a hill each evening and look at the colors that filled the sky to try to understand how to make them. He longed to share the beauty of his dream vision with his people. So he would go to the top and look at the beautiful sunsets and wish he could capture those beautiful colors in his paintings. But he never gave up trying. And every morning when he awoke, he took out his brushes and his pots of paint and created stories of the people with the tools he had. So he continued to record the stories of his people through his paintings, never giving up hope that he would capture those beautiful colors someday. One night, as he lay awake, he heard a voice calling him. Because you have been faithful to the people and true to your gift, you shall find the colors you are seeking. Tomorrow, take the white buckskin and go to the place where you watch the sun in the evenings. There on the ground, you will find what you need. So he was sleeping and he heard of a voice that told him to go where he would watch the sunset and he would find what he needed to capture those beautiful colors. The next evening, as the sun began to go down, Little Gopher put aside his brushes and went to the top of the hill as the colors of the sunset spread across the sky. And there on the ground, all around him, were brushes filled with paint, each one a color of the sunset. Little Gopher began to paint quickly and surely, using one brush and then the other. So, see, he's painting because on the ground there were paintbrushes that had the colors of the sunset. And he was able to capture those colors he had been working for the whole time. And as the colors in the sky began to fade, Little Gopher gazed at the white buckskin and he was happy. He had found the colors of the sunset. He carried the painting down to the circle of the people, leaving the brushes on the hillside. So now he had the colors he wanted on his white buckskin. And he left the brushes behind. Guess what's going to happen to those brushes? Can you guess? Can you make a prediction? I'll show you a picture and you will see. So cool. Look what happened to the paintbrushes. What do you see now? Used up paintbrushes or flowers on the hillside? The next day when the people awoke, the hill was ablaze with color from the brushes, for the brushes had taken root in the earth and multiplied into plants of brilliant reds, orange, and yellows. Every spring from that time, the hills and meadows burst into bloom. So then every spring in Wyoming, these paintbrushes would bloom like flowers, like it's just wildflowers. They would just come every spring. And every spring people danced and sang the praises of little Gopher who had painted for the people. And the people no longer called him little Gopher, but he who brought the sunset to the earth. So Native Americans' names usually were given depending on the trait that you had. Like if you were always busy, maybe they called you Busy Bee. Or if you were really fast, maybe they called you Roadrunner. And he that painted this, they didn't call him Gopher anymore, but he who brought the sunset to the earth. So the colors of the sunset grew on the earth as flowers every spring and painted the hillsides of the beautiful colors. So that is how the native little boy took his paintbrushes and his berries and rocks, mashed them up, took his paintbrush and painted. So maybe you could take some blueberries or some raspberries or some blueberries, raspberries, and these other purple berries, las moras. And you can paint the colors that you like of the sunset. So there you are. That is the legend of the paintbrush. So I just wanted to show off my beautiful painting that was made from the berries in Mexico to show the similarities of the Native Americans and the Mexican people, the natives of Mexico. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this story and that you learned that we all have our gifts. We can't do everything we want. Like, I can't be a singer because I can't sing, even though I would love to sing, to have a beautiful voice. My gift is to be a writer. So I write, and I do the best I can with that to write down the stories. Maybe you want to play sports, but you can't run that fast or you're not that strong, and maybe an instrument is your gift, and so you might be a musician. So it depends on what gifts you have and how you want to play it and how you want to do this. Okay, I hope I didn't forget anything that I wanted to share with you today. So I am going to have you take a break. I'm going to take a little bit of a break, and then I'm going to go check on the turkey. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to start with the Spanish version. La leyenda del pincel del indio. Voy a tomar 5 minutos de pausa y regreso para leérselos en español. Okay? But before I do, I wanted to share with you, since it's Thanksgiving, how the people from England in 1680 came to America to find a better life because they wanted to practice the religion that they chose. They wanted religious freedom. So they came across the ocean. A ship full of people came. They had heard of the new land. They knew about the Native Americans. And so they came on the ship on the Mayflower and they crossed the ocean. And it was a long trip. It took over 2 months. And they suffered, and some died. Some were hungry. And some made it, some didn't. And there were families that were suffering. There were storms. And a lot of people died. They had to be thrown overboard because they couldn't keep a dead person on the Mayflower. And then they got close to the beach where the land was that they were seeking. They finally made it here on the horizon. You see it on top over here? So they finally got to the land, they got there, and the Native Americans that lived in this land for decades or hundreds of years were there, and they were afraid of the natives. They knew that the natives were there, and the natives kind of watched to see what was going on because these strangers came to their land. And then these Americans came, and they called their home, they called this their new home and called it Plymouth, and they started building homes. But then it got to be winter, and they were hungry, and they didn't have enough storage, so they were hungry, and many died, and some barely survived until the spring. So the winter was really hard and harsh, but some of them lived through it. But there was a lot of illness and a lot of death. And they buried the bodies of the dead people. And then once the winter was gone, there came an Indian, and his name was Samoset, and he spoke English, and he came and he gave the pilgrims a gift. And then later on, Squanto, another Indian, came who spoke even better English, and he helped the pilgrims how to survive, how to plant. So when in the summer they could grow lots of food, so they could store it for the winter. So they became friends, and the pilgrims were grateful for the Indians' help, and they signed a treaty, an agreement on what they would do and would not do. The Mayflower went back, and some pilgrims stayed to make America their home, and they harvested their food to make sure they had plenty so they wouldn't have a hard winter like last time. And then Indians came, Native Americans came to join them for their fall festival, and they didn't have enough food, but the Native Americans brought deer that they had hunted, and so they had a big feast. And this was the actual first Thanksgiving. So this was the Thanksgiving that they got along for a little bit, and the natives thought that they could be at peace with the American pilgrims from Europe. But as time went on, after this Thanksgiving, as I showed you before, there used to be people, Native Americans, all over. There was people in the Pacific Northwest. See this little map at the Northwest? There was people in the Northwest, Native Americans there. There were some in the Southwest. See the map where it's painted? This was their land in this whole area. And then the people of the plains were all in the center from north to south, right here on that colored spot. That was all their territory. And then in the eastern woodlands, in the east by the coast, over by New York, there were the woodlands, the eastern woodlands. There were other natives there. And so they had all of that land. Remember I showed you these maps of how when the natives were here, they had all of this territory. They had all of this territory here in 1850. And then by 1865, 15 years later, that's how much less territory they had, because pilgrims had taken over the people that came from Europe. And then by 1880, which was 30 years later from the beginning, this is how much land they had. And now, sadly, Native Americans were pushed off to a few reservations, the little specks. There are some reservations in New Mexico and Colorado and Montana, in different parts of the country, but like I told you before, they are not the rich lands that they are used to. They are dry and poor, and they don't have jobs, and they're depressed, and so they don't have a lot of money. They don't have good education. They drink a lot because they are sad about what happened to them, and so we see that a people that were once very numerous and very proud have been reduced to almost nothing and were left with nothing of what used to be theirs. They used to take care of their land, take care of the animals, ask permission for the gods to kill an animal. They didn't waste. They only took what they needed. And so they were good people that took care of things. And now, since we have been here, the Americans have been here. As you can tell, we are destroying the land, and the land is getting mad at us, I think, and that's why the land is doing what it's doing with all the hurricanes, the fires, the tornadoes, the flooding, and all of those things, because we're not taking care of the earth the way the natives and the Mayan used to. So we have a lot to learn from this so-called savages. We used to call them savages, we thought, because we thought they were not wise, but they were wise beyond their years. More than we were, because we were not wise to take care of our Mother Earth. So I am going to stop right there, take a little bit of a break. It is now, let me see. It is now 2:30. Maybe in 10 minutes I'll come back. En 10 minutos regreso y hacemos la de español, para que de una vez ya esté hecho este cuento y lo tengan en los dos idiomas. Voy a ir a revisar el pavo. I'm going to go check on the turkey, and then I'll come and do the Spanish version. So thank you so much. I hope you get to see this, and I hope you learned. So I got some really good responses. I see that you're watching me. Thank you so much for the good compliments. Happy Thanksgiving to you too, Doris, my friend from Montana. And Jessica and Sophia are watching. Hi, Sophia. And Jessica. Is that the people that live in Colorado? They live in different parts of the country. Adri from Puebla, I'm glad you like my story. Happy Thanksgiving. I just called your grandma and told her that I am so grateful to have you as part of my family away from home, my Puebla family. So I am blessed to have you. You are one of the families that I am so thankful for. So I am thankful for you, my audience, and I'm thankful that we are here. Please take care. Don't take any unnecessary risks, because we want to be here by Christmas. We don't want to have a big spike of people getting infected now, and we're seeing it in December. Remember the wise thing that my mom would tell me, lo que me decía mi mamá, una mujer sabia porque tenía sus años, hay más tiempo que vida. There's more time than there is life. So even though I will not share this Thanksgiving to sit around the table with all my family, I hope that we will have another Thanksgiving and I will be there and not risk me getting sick and not being there next year. So we have technology like now to share a meal. So I will be eating, hopefully Skyping with my family and enjoying this day as I enjoy telling these stories. So I hope you enjoy them too. I will let you go. I'm going to go check on my turkey, like I said. Adios and happy Thanksgiving. I am thankful for you.